This is the third and last deep dive on the infographic for February, Big Waves of Sensory Perception. I believe the ideas so far should make us challenge the cognitive behavioral methods so commonly used for managing children and teens in schools or parenting children at home. In fact, all kids would be better off if adults could reorganize their goals in caring for children and teens to prioritize emotional development. It's so interesting that we don't need to know a whole lot about emotional development. Children and teens will teach us everything if we're willing to watch, listen, and stay tuned into their needs. Even if we haven't been around babies or small children before, if we just tune our emotions to feel what they are feeling, it's amazing that we basically get the message and know what to do. When babies cry, it feels alarming to us because the baby is feeling alarmed. So we instinctively move in, comfort, hold, make soothing sounds, and look for what they need. Do they need food, quiet, more connection? And when children and teens refuse to behave, it feels irritating to us and makes us impatient. This is because our central nervous system feels what this child is feeling. So move in, observe what is irritating and difficult for this child. Slow down so that we all find our patience. This is easier said than done, but when we intentionally tune into the emotions first, it's amazing how we can feel what to do and not outthink it. It's like we have to travel back in time to our own early development when language was not our first mode of communication. Infants have a nonverbal life, and even school-age children and teens often operate nonverbally because their emotions are difficult to put into words. As an adult, our emotional life and cognitive life have grown into each other to automatically think about emotions or give language to what we feel. Emotions and thinking have truly become one. But emotional life and cognitive life are not so intertwined for kids. When we take the time to tune into kids, we instinctively know how to talk, when to not talk. They teach us. When kids don't think in words, it's because their needs are expressed from the emotional brain in behavior much faster than they can muster words or full ideas. So yes, of course, we're going to continue talking to kids to support their language development. But what I'm trying to say is when those big waves are happening, adults should listen more than talk. Move in, observe, come alongside to witness how this child or teen is struggling. We will learn so much about what life is like for them. This is not a cognitive behavioral approach. This is an emotion-focused approach, which supports emotional development so much better. From birth, the body is action-driven instinctively to prefer looking at faces, listening to human voices, feeling warm, and being held close to echo a heartbeat. These preferences hint at the primitive organization of the brain, which is instinctual, relying on emotions. Energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion. This is the life energy in the body anatomy and chemistry from a long evolutional history or divine design of 7 primary emotion systems organizing the brain. There are 7 systems. But I want to talk about 3 raw emotions that are up and running first. One is the seeking system, characterized by persistent exploring, investigating whatever can be seen or touched, and approaching anything that's novel, interesting, or preferred because of its color, smell, movement, or just because it's close enough to grab. Seeking is not well directed by learning until much later. And this is why, for example, toddlers will run off impulsively in any direction to explore, including exploring the feeling of wind on their face as they run. An energetic seeking system shows up as short attention span until kids are much older. Also, poor selective attention, frequent shifting of attention, and lower effort to pay attention unless they are very interested. Satisfying the seeking system continues to be very important throughout life for emotional development. So when developmental fit for school-aged children and teens is not good enough, kids will be seeking more stimulating environments on their own, some of which are not very safe. Okay, the second system that's up and running early is the fear system. And it's online early because anxiety is a free-floating capacity of the nervous system created from ancient memory traces, right? Our ancestors were smart to be afraid of pain, of the dark, of being alone, and to be afraid of low rumbling noises or high-pitched noises, both of which are outside that easy, calming range of sounds used by the human voice. The ancient fears were passed on to us through the fear system. Infants and children startle very easily to loud or unexpected noises. In fact, sounds in particular trigger emotions, which is one reason why music and singing are powerful messengers to energize us or relax us. And third, the caring system is online early too, because oxytocin courses through the bodies of infants and their mothers. In fact, the neurologists, Panksepp and Biven, whose research mapped the 7 primary process raw emotions, described the natural opiate chemicals in new mothers to actually light up many of the same areas of the brain as cocaine. Nature is signaling the importance of early bonding to survival, giving it this powerful system, the caring system. Capacities to see color, hear sounds, and feel emotions grow before we even put together patterns of sounds. So these capacities are not just pre-verbal, but they're also pre-language and pre-linguistic. Emotions are embodied as body memories. We basically know how an emotion feels. It's not until much later we can talk about emotions and feelings as our emotional development progresses to use thinking and language. The 7 emotion systems are the seeking system, the fear system, the caring system, and these 3 are online very early. And then the panic and grief system, the play system, the rage system, and the lust system. These last 4 systems emerge later. So the panic and grief system, which is active during the first 6 years of life when attachments deepen, this sensitizes kids to nuances of tone of voice, facial expressions, and social gestures from others. The play system expands from simple seeking to be directed by thinking and personal curiosity and learning. The rage system is a raw emotion reacting to hunger or thirst or frustration, alarm, and separation. Rage is very unpleasant to experience because the feeling is being out of control, like in a tantrum or a meltdown. And 7th on this list is the lust system, coming online initially at the age 5 to 7 endocrine shift point, when kids first show gendered play. Yet the lust system intensifies during the adolescent maturation point, as many kids wrestle with self-identified gender. The 7 emotional networks overlap and influence each other. Seeking often has an unmistakable quality of play, yet play is instantly overcome if fear emerges. Play is easily diminished by panic and grief, but play quickly returns if caring restores connection and feelings of safety. The lust system overlaps with panic and grief when kids become hypersensitive to put downs about gender expression, being included in gendered play groups, or even rage takes over when kids are excluded from social groups based on embedded social messages of their gestures, abilities, or even the clothing and colors they wear. that are somehow gendered. These 7 emotional systems are very productive workshop topics when used in a case study format to understand individual children or teens, because they provide an emotion-focused lens to witness the biggest emotional struggles, acknowledging how the caring system protects the fear system and how the play system is easily overcome by panic and grief. Actually translates individual education plans or individual support and service plans into care agreements. And they become much more proactive with emotional support. Otherwise, we're not noticing when kids first begin to tune out. They lose their energy or usual energy to listen, learn, and participate. But this is our cue to move in, observe, and ask good questions, because losing that energy for seeking or caring or play signals a shift from emotional struggling to mental health suffering. Tuning out becomes shutting out friends and family, and can become numbing out feelings when kids just can't cope. Shutting out and numbing out are dangerous ways to isolate and stay emotionally stuck in dissociation. But dissociation gets unstuck when adults explain how the vagal network functions and how emotional systems overlap. So caring manages fear, and play overcomes panic and grief. Of course, the biggest barriers to mental health and emotional development are child abuse and neglect, including racism and sexism, because the rage system can be sensitized for a lifetime. Yes, these are big waves. Emotional development is a highly relevant topic. That's why I love it.